Clayton, whenever you are ready, good sir.
Okay, today I'm here to inform you a little bit about Henry Mudgett Holmes. He was a serial killer in the city of Chicago in the late 1800s. He basically terrorized the city for about 30 years. According to dictionary.com, a serial killer is a person who commits a series of murders, often with no apparent motive, typically following a pattern, characteristic, or predictable behavior pattern. As Amy stated in her speech, that's usually what profilers do to catch the criminals. They follow the specific pattern that the criminal is making and they catch them. This is a picture of Henry Mudgett Holmes, otherwise known as Henry Howard Holmes. He is confirmed, they have confirmed that he's killed 9 people, but they couldn't link all of the people that he killed to him directly. But he could have killed up to 200 people. So now I'll be telling you about his early life, the murder castle, and the ways he killed people. I'll start with his early life. His birthday, he was born May 16th, 1861 in Gilmanton, New Hampshire. He was brought up really strict. His father would give him harsh discipline, and his mother forced him into religion early. At school, he was always made fun of, even though he really excelled in it. His classmates they found out one of his fears because they disliked him so much. And one of his fears was like an anatomy skeleton up at the front of the room, and they actually picked him up and held him up in front of it, and he would thank them later for doing that because it got him over his fears. After high school and stuff, he went on to Vermont for 1 year because he didn't know what he wanted to do. And then he decided that he wanted to study medicine, so he went on to Michigan and graduated from there in 1884. His best classes were anatomy and chemistry. He really excelled in those. He had some dirty secrets. He enjoyed and found pleasure in playing with the cadavers and the bodies in anatomy. So I told you, after he graduated medical school, he went to work for Everett Holton, a drugstore owner in Chicago. In 1886, a couple months after he started working there, Holton dies of what the authorities would say are natural causes. But then a month later, his wife sells Holmes, the drugstore, and suspiciously disappears and is never heard of from again. In 1888, he buys a property across the street from the drugstore. It's a vacant lot, and now I'll tell you a little bit about the murder castle. The murder castle, he was the only one who knew the design. It was a 3-story building that he had several people work on. He was very manipulative. He would have a couple people, like one person, do a set of stairs and then say they did it wrong and say the work that was incompetent, and he wouldn't pay them. And then he would fire them, and then they'd have, he bought a vault on credit from the bank, and then he had people build walls around it, and he didn't pay the bank for it, and he told the bank to come get it if they get it, but they couldn't. He told them that if they come and get it and they damage his building in any way, that he would sue them for all their worth. So he basically committed fraud, and he didn't have to pay for it. This is what it looked like. The first floor had a pharmacy, a blacksmith shop, jewelry store, a barber shop, and a restaurant. You may be wondering why I skipped over the second floor. It's because this is where he did most of his dirty work and off hours, like his playtime. The third floor had his offices, rooms he rented out to people, and Holmes' bedroom himself. The second floor, it contained 35 rooms, always that led nowhere, empty rooms that he would lock people in when they were wandering around at night, and it had a chute for bodies that he would dispose of bodies, like he would throw them down there and then unlock it. It went from the 3rd floor all the way down to the basement, and he would shove the bodies in there and then later go down to the basement and discard of them. this is a picture of what it looked like. It's full of hallways, trap doors, and like asphyxiation rooms. The basement, this is where he disposed of most of his bodies. He used acid, quicklime pits, and a crematorium that was disguised as a glass bending furnace. Those were his favorite methods of body disposal. I told you a little bit about the murder castle. Some of his killing methods. He would rent out rooms during the Colombian expedition, and that was a very popular tourist attraction. So people would tell people that's where they were going, but they wouldn't know where they were staying or what they were doing. And he would rent rooms out to them, and most of them were on the second floor. He would let them go into their rooms, and then he would lock them in there. And then some of them had gas lines hooked up to them, and he would turn the gas on and watch them asphyxiate and die, and then throw them down the chute and take them. And he would also kidnap them. One of his mistresses, he actually locked in a vault, and the vault that he got from the bank, and asphyxiated her, choked her to death. Julia Connor, she worked for him, and she was also one of his mistresses. She wanted to marry him because she was pregnant, but the only way Holmes would marry her is that she would have an abortion that was performed by him, and he would actually kill her, and he actually would skin the bodies of his victims, skin them down to the bone, clean them up, take them apart, put them back together like the skeleton, like an anatomy skeleton, and then sell them to colleges. Another one of his private secretaries was Minnie Williams. She was valued at she had a property in Fort Worth, Texas that was valued at $40,000. Holmes made her and her sister sign a document that leased him the property, and then he would eventually kill them and sell them to the University of Chicago. And Georgina was the only one of Holmes's wives or mistresses that lived out her whole life. So today I've told you a little bit about Holmes's early life, the murder castle, and the way he committed his crimes.
All right.